As the United States and China enter a new phase of economic brinkmanship, the ripple effects are being felt across the globe. And South Africa is no exception. President Donald Trump's latest escalation in his tariff war with Beijing, including sweeping new duties of up to 145% on imports, has triggered a sharp response from the Chinese government. This tit-for-tat confrontation has not only rattled markets, but raised the stakes for a fragile global economy. Questions are also emerging about how countries such as South Africa should navigate this high-stakes contest between the two global giants. Now, joining us is Dr. Stephen Kaur, Senior Lecturer in International Relations at the Wits University. And he's written extensively on this evolving trade conflict and its broader implications. Dr. Kaur, great to speak to you. Now, from your perspective, what is really at the core of this intensifying trade war between the US and China? And why has Trump chosen now to escalate things so dramatically?
Well, in my view, Trump has been promising that he's going to do something different since he was running for office, and he literally has done this now. My view is that the US is struggling economically. Its industrial base is hollowing out, and its national debt is rising, and its annual payment on loans, its interest payment is actually higher than its defense spending. So Donald Trump is keen to see if he can turn the ship around, and that's why he is picking on China.
Now, he's picked on many countries. Has he picked the wrong fight by going for China?
Well, it's inevitable, though, isn't it? Right. So China, over the last, as we all know, the last 3-4 decades, has caught up. China is emerging as a superpower. Some might say that China has emerged as a superpower. So, in a way, there might not be enough space for two superpowers in the globe. So Donald Trump needs to show China who is the boss, and that's why he's picking on China. And China is also one of his largest trading partner. It's competition in East Asia and competition worldwide. So Trump is trying to show China who is the boss. And we are actually seeing a showdown right now.
Now, China's response has been surprisingly measured but firm, with growing messaging that the US is the irrational actor. Is Beijing winning the optics war globally? And what does that mean for America's traditional alliances?
Oh, I suppose the jury is still out on who is winning. The US has signed trade deals with some East Asian countries now. We hear that Japan, Vietnam, and South Korea, they have getting some preliminary deals signed up. And but in Africa, certainly, the Chinese appears to have the upper hand, right? So on the one hand, it's difficult to tell who is winning. But on the other hand, there is certainly a realignment of traditional alliances. I mean, we all saw that Donald Trump is, if you like, changing the traditional way that the US is leading security in Europe, right? The US is saying, look, European countries, you guys need to pay for your own security. And in the Middle East, the Americans appear to be doing similarly. So it appears that one thing is for certain: the post-Cold War unipolar global order, where America was the only superpower, where America was, if you like, the policeman that called the shots, and that era is now over. We are moving into a somewhat multipolar and to some respect, somewhat more difficult to predict. We're moving to an unpredictable era in global politics right now.
So what we are seeing is maybe two strategies, if I'm correct. Donald Trump arm twisting various nations to agree to his terms, and a coercion of sorts from China. So what are the key considerations from the various countries when they're approached by either the US or China?
I think for the vast majority of countries, nobody wants to definitely take one side. China is the largest trading country in the world. So vast majority of countries, certainly in the case of African countries, have a bigger trading relationship with China. However, the US has security alliances. It is the traditional power. So for most countries, whether it's South Africa, whether it's other middle powers like Indonesia or Argentina or Brazil, everybody is doing their very best to hedge their bets. Yeah. So I mean, I suppose there's a couple of exceptions. Maybe Japan. Japan is going to take the America side because traditionally it has a bit of has a bit of problems with the Chinese. But even for the Japanese, their largest trading partner very much is still the US. So I think for vast majority of countries, everybody wants to play both sides, and everybody wants to do the best they can to avoid, if you like, becoming the grass that's trampled on when the two elephants fight.
Now, here at home, South Africa has been hit with a 31% tariff hike. While some argue that AGOA is overstated and its economic impact, key sectors like auto and citrus could suffer. What are the realistic risks for our economy?
So I'm sympathetic to the view that AGOA is overrated. However, the auto industry is very important for South Africa. So what what are the realistic risks involved? I suppose everything. But it seems to me the primary problem for a country like South Africa, it's actually our own policies rather than external factors. I mean, if you look back over the last 10, 20 years, when the commodity boom was on, but South Africa's our own infrastructure, our port and our railway was not had maintained well enough to take maximum advantage of the high commodity prices. So in many ways, South Africa's own policy to do with trade, to do with export, to do with attracting investments, that's actually the biggest risk. Uh, the Chinese are relatively well disposed towards South Africa. The relationship is fairly good. South Africa, as we all know, is part of BRICS. And South Africa has had hiccups over the last while when it comes to the relationship with the US. But South Africa is not that high up on the US's priority list. So the primary geopolitical risk, in my view, is South Africa's own policies in dealing with the changing global order.
Now, let's talk a little bit about BRICS, because it's been a factor. Donald Trump has made numerous threats around BRICS nations and the possibility of them adopting a non-US dollar based currency in order to trade. Does BRICS offer African nations and other members of BRICS an opportunity to stick it to Donald Trump and the US? Do they have the collective ability and willpower to use that as a means of pivot?
I think all BRICS countries, including China, no one wants to take a directly confrontational approach towards the United States, right? If it comes to if it's free trade that we want, then you want a peaceful international environment where trade can flow and with as little tariffs as possible. So even the Chinese, despite it saying that we will fight you if you like, at the same breath, the Chinese are saying our door is open for negotiations. So open, secure, and safe international environment where there is free trade. That was good for China. That's good for everyone, for the economies to grow. So, and then I suppose the other thing is whether the US dollar is going to not become, I mean, the BRICS currency of some kind might overtake the US dollar. It appears that's the trend now. Given that the United States have weaponized the US dollar and using it to sanction Russia and Iran and others, China and India and other countries, many countries are beginning to properly talk about trading away from the US dollar. And looks like there is a trend that will continue. Perhaps will take 5 years or 10 years, but that trend will continue. And BRICS countries, just given its population size and given these are developing countries' potential to grow, BRICS countries economically will inevitably become more powerful, and nothing is going to stop that particular march.
Dr. Ko, appreciate your time. Thank you for speaking to us, Dr. Stephen Ko from the Wits University's International Relations Department, walking us through the trade wars that are impacting not just the United States, but multiple nations across the world, including South Africa.